So welcome, everyone. Welcome to day one. You can see our presenter there in the background of MMVC 25. This is our 14th annual event, and I think Rob has been presenting in all of them, or most of them, probably, almost. So welcome back. A little bit about Rob. He's based, as I mentioned before, in Poland, but he's originally from the United States, lived in Brazil for many, many years, and now in Poland. He's the owner of Online Language Center. He teaches English, business, language training. He's a teacher, writer, and frequent worldwide speaker and trainer on business English, teaching online and using or not using technology. He does both, but he's not sure about it. He's the current ITEFL president of Poland, former joint coordinator of the ITEFL business, SIG, past coordinator of the ITEFL BSIG web and online team. He's done a number of projects for ITEFL and learning technologies, which is another ITEFL SIG, gallery teachers masterclass, EduFest, ITDI, and he works with several worldwide university language programs, as well as the co-founder of an independent authors and publishers. He's also the creator of EFL Talks. We mustn't forget that is continuously having an impact on teachers around the globe. So welcome, Rob. Welcome to your 10th plus.
Yay!
MVC.
Well, thank you for having me, as always. It's a pleasure to be here. Shall I start?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, let me...
Zoom changes all the time, so don't be surprised if you...
Yeah. Let's see.
See something you've never seen before.
Set up. Yep. I'm always up for a good surprise. Okay, let me... So I'm on painkillers because I messed up my back again. So
the best way not to mess up backs, according to the Alexander technique, and if you get an Alexander therapist for your back, that would be great, is not to think of your back. As you walk, as you sit, whatever you're doing, don't think of your back. Think of the top of your head or your legs and ignore your back.
Nellie, how long have you known me? I don't think, period.
Well, you do now because you're going to give us the why and hype, AI versus AY.
Okay, great. All right, I think I'm all set. You should see everything. Yay, all ready to go. Okay, so, all right, so thank you so much for the introduction. That's me, and show you. I've been talking a lot about technology and especially AI a lot lately, and I've been traveling all over the place doing these talks. I think I'm up to almost 60 talks talking about technology and AI. And for those of you who have been there, you've probably seen a lot of these. And, oh, sorry, notice. And just to give you an idea of some of the different subjects, and one thing I've been talking about, and a big thing when it was technology and now with AI, is one of the big things for me is that there's no evidence of retention. And that I think because of, people jumping into technology without really thinking, they've put technology before methodology and before pedagogy. And I also, I know a lot of people here are into gamification, but one thing I think you should think about is gamification really is putting, I think, competition before comprehension. And it uses game mechanics to keep engagement high. And for me, what this is it's addiction over motivation. And quite frankly, I want motivated students, not addicted students. The only one addicted to anything should be me. So getting onto AI, we've heard all the promises and everything that's coming out and every new thing. We heard the promises with the internet, with the computers in school, with Second Life, with VR, and now with AI. There's a lot of hype behind it. And my question is, why don't most tech apps work effectively? And as I said before, unfortunately, in not all of them, but in a large number of them, there's no methodology and there's no pedagogy behind these apps. And a good example is Duolingo. It's proof that engagement without pedagogy really doesn't teach. And it hasn't been as effective as everybody thinks it has. Sure, most haven't, and most end up quitting. So, what are the motives behind edtech? Is it really educating? That's our motive. Or is it data mining? Remember, these are tech companies behind this. And we've all heard about AI biases. We've all heard about the algorithms, how it can skew data. In fact, 38% of AI facts have been proven now to be biased, and 70% of the systems are showing gender bias. Now, we know this now, yet we still continue to use it. And there's so many different problems with it. We can go through so many different talks: dependency on technology, the quality of the resources, the lack of teacher training, the limitations for culture. And unfortunately, it seems when you go to conferences, the big thing that they're worried about is how much water we use and how much power we use. We're not worrying about the right things when it comes to the use of AI. And one of the biggest problems is edtech really, it's a new business as far as AI. And over 2,000 startups have closed already in 5 years. And that means that 90% of AI startups fail. And this is something that we have to keep in mind before we start using AI apps. Now, you may remember Flipgrid, which then was sold out and turned to Flip, which then flipped out and died, along with Edmodo, Ed, Paper, 2U, Academy, In Bloom, No, Tutor Spree. Here's a bunch more, and even the publishers have gotten into these, and theirs have failed. The failures are huge. So ed tech is failing in many ways. Now, most ed tech startups fail within 2 to 3 years, and that's because things are changing so quickly. For example, there was a great book came out in 2023 by Matt Miller, and he was talking about all the different AI apps for educators. It's already outdated because a lot of those are already gone. Now, why do ed tech and AI apps? I'm putting technology and AI all together into one to make it easy. But when you come up with these new apps, there's a long sales cycle, especially when people are selling to school systems and to governments and trying to convince them. I was in Morocco with the Minister of Education a few months back, and they've been looking at making a decision for almost 2 years. Now, in that time, what happens to the AI company? Remember, there's limited budgets not only in educational institutions and from us teachers, but there's limited budgets from these AI companies because they get startup money and not necessarily continue to get income, the big millions of dollar incomes that they need to keep going. Other problem is some of them might be great, and it's hard to go from an app that works successfully, and if it takes off, suddenly you need a lot more money for scalability to be able to go nationwide and worldwide. And this has become difficult for a lot of the ed tech companies out there. And then we always have the engagement challenge. It's Duolingo is a perfect example. I get emails from them all the time because I stopped using it months ago, and they're come back, baby. I don't know why they call me baby, but getting people engaged. And, customer focus. It doesn't always give you exactly what it is you're looking for. Duolingo is a perfect example. It gave me some weird sentences that I would never use. And why did I need that vocabulary? So I wasn't learning what I needed. The big thing is, these apps tend to be really flashy, but are they educationally effective? Because there's no grounding. Now, some of the problems back in LA, in Los Angeles, they spent $6 million on an AI chatbot tool, and after a few months, the chatbot tool went out of business. So spending $6 million for something that just disappeared. And academic performance and memory loss is coming out in new studies right now. There's this AI crutch effect. And this is actually used for coders, but I like to bring it into users because we have seen recently legitimate research that is being done that shows that reading comprehension has dropped, writing proficiency has dropped, critical thinking has dropped, memory has dropped. And these are from legitimate studies since AI has come on the market for us. Now, Duke University, here's one right here. Duke did a big one showing the negative impact of generative AI on learning outcomes. And I'll show more. um, Learning effectiveness, when people were using AI based to help do their work, there was a 25% decrease. If they used AI assisted, that means they're doing some of the work, a 12% decrease in learning effectiveness. MIT just came out with a study, which is still hasn't been peer reviewed. Um, it's a smaller scale study, but it's showing reduced brain activity during learning when you're learning with AI. Now, I thought it was funny that the CEO of NVIDIA came out and trashed the MIT study and said that it was garbage. The funny thing is that he hasn't even looked at their research yet. And so he suddenly just made a decision. Of course he did, because he's making millions of dollars on NVIDIA as CEO. So of course he's going to trash a study. Those are the two biggest studies, but there's been studies from Stanford and other universities. And there's also studies coming out. Yes, studies on learning outcomes are very limited, but where are the positive studies that are coming out? They're just as limited. And as I've told you before, a lot of these aren't true studies, they're reviews of older studies done before. So, cognitive offloading, we know that this is happening. because of third-party thinking. We're letting somebody else do our thinking, which of course is going to reduce our skills, which could lead to mental atrophy. And it's definitely, as most teachers will tell you anecdotally, it's leading to a lot of laziness from teachers too. An interesting quote here is people will get dumber as AI gets smarter. I worry that as the models get better and better, the users will have less and less of their own discriminating thought process. And who was this from? This was just last month from Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI. So even the people that are making it realize that this could be a problem. The influence also on adolescents with social adaptability. This is something that just came out of China, I believe, a month and a half ago. And this is more research. Now, articles, the schools are thinking that we're going to teach American kids to think like Elon. And one of my favorite articles, I quit teaching because of ChatGPT. But we also know that the effects of excessive screen time on child development. Here's another study. This came out of Asia also. And we've seen a lot of talks and a lot of things coming out from psychologists who are insisting that teens under 13 should not have smartphones and are spending way too much screen time. And it's affecting not only their development socially, but it's going to affect everything else. And this is part of their lives. Now, in the US, between grades 1 and 12, average screen time is 98 minutes out of a 5-hour day. This is in school. An hour and a half is spent in front of a screen, whether it be a computer, whether it be any presentations. Now, that's 33% of their school day. And schools in the US are setting up accounts as early as first grade using AI. And it's recommended that 11 to 17-year-olds should have no more than 1 or 2 hours a day of screen time. If you have kids, good luck with that. And 8 to 18-year-olds are spending 7.5 to 8 hours a day outside of school in front of a screen. And then we're putting them on for another hour, hour and a half in school. So the more screen time that they have, the less interaction that they're having with people, less teacher time that they have, and less collaboration. They're not doing pair work and group work, they're working with AI. And what's going to happen with this is doing this is impairs their speech because they're not talking to other people. It impairs their cognitive development and their emotional maturation. So I like to say that congratulations to everybody. If you're using AI with your students in the classroom and you're using especially these chatbots, of course, they might be speaking, but who are they speaking to? They're not speaking to each other anymore. And you can see this with just social media in general. If you ride a bus or a train or a tram, you go anywhere, nobody talks to each other anymore. They're all on screen time. You see groups of teenagers sitting around with each other, and they're not talking to each other. They're texting. Now, there's a great video. I'm not going to show it here. It takes too long. It's about 20 minutes long. It's by Sophie Winkleman. It came out this year. And she's talking about, she's running this thing in the UK to try and get the reduction of screen time among students.
Good.
We'll switch ahead. But, this is a vicious cycle now, is the teacher uses AI to create student work. The student then uses AI to complete the assignment, and then the teacher uses AI to grade the student's work, and the student doesn't get anything out of it. I think we should just put AI together. Why bother having school anymore? Because who's learning what? Now, it's estimated that up to 80% of teachers are using it for teaching, and under 20% are using it for preparation. And we all hear, let's use AI to make teachers' preparation time better and to reduce the amount of time that we have to do it. But it's not happening that way. They're using it as a tool in class to not teach themselves. So my whole thing is avoid the hype. And as I said for a long time, teachers are feeling pressured into using AI. I know that in some countries, teachers have to use AI apps in the classroom. This is part of their job, and they have to do it or find a new job. And the thing is, who's driving all this? It's not the learners, it's our colleagues. I'm sure today you're going to hear other colleagues saying, here, you can use AI to do this. And, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm giving you food for thought. But really, our colleagues are pushing this, but really, it's the industry that's pushing this. It's the industry that's so strongly behind this because education is big business and it's getting bigger and bigger as we go. The edtech market last year was $165 billion. It's expected by 2030 to be $773 billion. And out of that, the ELT market represents 47 to 54% of that market. So the 6-year projected growth, 368%. I wish my income would go up that high. And the funny thing is you have to really stop and think about it. All these new innovations that are coming out, where are they releasing this information? You've seen it if you're on social media that we have these, large summits, for AI, then what's new, what's the future, what's the World Summit. And you have these huge things with OpenAI throws in, Microsoft, Google, Perplexity, 10, 20,000 people in the audience. And for some reason, they all like dark blue, seems to be the color for AI. And, what are you seeing during our teacher associations? Here's one of the very few companies that shows up at teacher association exhibits and conferences, and you can see they've really put a lot of thought and a lot of money into this. They're not looking for us as the market. They're looking to build consumer products. And that's what this is about. AI, you have to understand, is a consumer product. It is strictly a product. It's not a service. It's a product. And products are made to be consumed, not necessarily to educate. Now, AI in education is now the 7th highest AI marketplace and growing. Just last year, it was number 8. And AI obviously is going to be more economical for schools. Fewer course books, fewer teachers, fewer assistants, someday maybe fewer buildings. And it's going to make a greater impact on schools in the future. The problem is that the educators themselves are not making the decisions on this. Usually it's the accountants because it all comes down to money. So decisions are being made top down from normally people who may not be educators. They're not being made from the bottom up, which are from the users. So I have a slow finger. So pedagogical effectiveness. How well is the AI dialogue supporting the learning outcome? These are some questions we need to look at. And what design principles were used in the development of the app? How accurate, responsive, and technically sound are they? We need to look at this before we start jumping into using these apps in the classroom. Because number one of the problems is digital overload. Anybody knows that when you teach for a long time, I won't teach more than a 50-minute class because I know at about 40 minutes, people have already shut off. And getting into this, now we have a thing called platform fatigue, which causes strain on learning. Daily screen exposure causes reduced attention spans. We've seen that the attention spans in teens has now decreased exponentially. And there's a struggle to process or retain due to the constant sensory input. This causes learner stress. One thing that I feel is this competition that's done with gamification, the one I always pick on, Kahoot, this causes stress. And students can become embarrassed or discouraged if they fall behind, just like they normally would. But there's lower motivation and a sense of being unsupported because now, in many cases, the teacher has stepped back. And that's because there's no methodology and pedagogy in these apps. Because think about it, most of these edtech apps are being developed by teenage coders. Now, this is Doge right here. They're all teenagers. And they're being done by AI coders, experts, people who know technology. They're not, in many cases, not all, they're not being done by educators. I know some companies have hired education consultants. I have some friends that work on it to go through and look at the app and see, is it educationally sound? This is good, but most of the time, it's a problem of practice over strategy. And it's putting in practice over money. Now, here's the typical thing that we see when new apps come out. Nick Peachy, they're friends of mine, and Nick goes through, he finds something, he researches it, he plays with it, then he writes about it. Russell Stannard goes and makes videos, makes great videos on how to use it. Then 6 months to a year later, everybody's, suddenly an expert and talking about it in conferences and online. And then the app's dead by the time people are using it. So my thing is avoid the hype. And remember, I don't know, I'm old. I don't know about the rest of you. I know Nellie, I know Nevis is here. You two are youngsters. But, think about when we learn languages, we learned it without laptops. We learned the language without internet. We didn't have interactive whiteboards. In some parts of the world, they learn without a book. Even worse, they learn without paper. Some places they're learning English without a desk. So I think they can learn without AI. So I think you need to ask yourself some questions. And this is why I'm doing this. And I'm not totally against AI. I use it myself to produce materials, to do some of the chores that I normally have to do. But I want, because everybody's talking positive, I want to take the other side, and I want you to start thinking and ask yourself some questions. Does it align with my objectives and the objectives of your student? Will it enhance understanding? Is it age and level appropriate? Does it collect personal data? This is a problem. Is it free or is it at least affordable? And does it provide meaningful feedback? A big question that I think teachers need to ask: will it do something that I can't do? And this is, one of the things. If I can do it, if I can teach them how to do something in class and get them to learn, why do I need the AI app to do that for me? Keep the human in the teaching. But the biggest question that I want you to ask yourself, and most of all, and this is the point of my talk, is you have to ask why. This is the question that I want you to ask. Why am I using it? So with that, I went pretty fast. And just while I'm here, before I end, I would just like to invite anybody who happens to be in the Poland area in September or wants to come, join us. We're doing something great. We have our annual conference for IATEFL Poland, and we're joining with Lector High Tech with the IATEFL LT SIG. We're going to have a lot of talks on AI, positive, negative. We're also talking about neurodiversity, and we've got over 200 speakers over 3 days. So come on over to Poland if you can. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and open it up.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you, everyone, for your attention and your comments in the chat box. I loved your last question, Rob, because I think that's what it goes back to what Eva was talking before about what's happening to us and what are we focusing on. And yes, we should be focusing, as you mentioned, right through, if I could take that, everything you said, because you said a lot and you've given us a lot of examples about technology and included AI, of course, that care is not there. We don't care about people. And we're talking about top down, of course, but that
Yeah.
can go down to bottom up as well, because
Yeah.
they're all, squished together into the same thing. We stopped caring, and we stopped, using our teaching to get our students to ask why. That's what education is about: asking, learning how to ask. Because kids are born with why, and then they get to school and they stop asking because they're dumbed down
Yep.
not to ask, of course.
Yeah.
So your key point here about why is super, super, super important. And I wonder, you showed those kids with the coders. And have we asked ourselves, those kids have learned how to make money? Is that the purpose of education? To teach for career orientation, to teach how to make money? Because if that is the purpose, to teach how to make money, we succeeded with those coders who were
Yes, we
making
did.
a lot of money, more than their teachers, obviously.
Yeah.
So what is the purpose of education? I've been asking this since I was in grade 8.
Mm-hmm.
When I gave a speech on the value of education as being the love of learning and playing with ideas and discussions and talking and caring. And it doesn't matter whether you talk in Zoom or whether you talk face to face, discussions, having discussions, because we can't all be together in Mount Olympus, talking to each other. We have to do it with some kind of technology, but technology, we all know, has gone overboard. I totally see it. I feel it in my bones, in my eyes, when I started getting double vision because of the screen. So we all know it, we all feel it, but do we really care? Obviously, you care, Rob.
Yes.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have come up with this presentation today. And many, many teachers care. But how do we get our students to develop this so that they don't become the teachers that we seeing these days that are using technology without, or doing things in class without asking why am I doing this?
Yeah. I think we have to start a new initiative, Nellie, and change
Yes,
integrating technology to integrating humanity.
Definitely, which is why I add integrating technology with mindfulness. That's my idea.
Yeah, it's, I just think I see everybody just jumping on it because it's there. And it's not necessarily a good thing. And there are some good apps out there. Not everything is bad. There are stuff that's being developed by educators and not coders. There's a great app. Eva uses one with engineering called Riff, which is, I believe, out of Stanford University. There's another one that I've been playing with called Socratic, which is out of Georgia Tech, and I've met with the developer of that. And they studied education first, technology second. So, there's educational pedagogy behind those. And that's good. But I don't hear people talking about those. I hear them talking about Kahoot,
Yeah. There's another one called Riffbot AI.
Yeah. That Riff is the one that Eva works with. Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I use it in all my courses, and I've also talked with the developer, and she has gone into education before she developed it, and she also worked on reflections as a process and so on. I'm glad Eva's using that. So yes, and those, Rob, if you're interested, you'll be able to actually, and others will be able to use it at the end of MMVC 25. There's a chance for you to reflect through Riffbot. So please make sure you go into the Moodle course and do that, and also get your certificate.
And I'm going to put the other one, Socratic.com.
Yeah, Socratic.
Yeah. It's free for now. Both of them, Socratic is mainly out of Georgia Tech, but with Stanford. I believe Riff is out of Stanford
Also
too.
Stanford. Yes, and it's free for educators, and I really appreciate that. You need to ask for it.
Same with Socratic. Just go to it and say you're an educator. He wants educators to use it to help him develop it and, make it better. And it was funny because we were discussing it, and I said, have you considered using it for English language learning? And he thought about it for a minute and he said, I've got everything there to be able to do that. And he was thinking about refocusing to use that strictly for learning purposes for language.
For language purposes. Yeah. I'll add, I'm adding the link to Riffbot there.
Right.
As well.
Yeah. And these are positive things. And I think it's good because, I know you and I know you check everything. I lost the word, but I know that you check everything that you work with well. And, the same with a lot of people out there, but some people are just jumping on and using some of these things, I think, for the wrong purpose. I always pick on Kahoot. Another one I
Yeah.
pick on is Suno, because I saw a minister of education give a presentation on how, he puts in an idea, he puts in a type of music, and then it generates a song, and they sit there and sing it in class. I said, where's the learning? Where's the production? These are just games for me. And I really don't think this is why we signed up as teachers.
Yeah, the thing is that who's listening to us, Rob?
Yeah.
Teachers realize this, but education, you mentioned that education is a huge business.
Yeah.
And that's what's pulling us down
Yep.
because the human equation, you also mentioned that is out.
Mhm.
And that's why I think what EBA is doing, I mean, you might want to listen to the recording of the first, in case
Yeah,
you
I
missed
will.
it, with the leadership in, what are we looking for in leaders? And leaders could be teachers, of course, as well.
Mhm.
And the idea of thinking, of asking why to all these things. Teachers are not asking why. They're taking whatever is dished out to them in the schools because they have no choice.
Right.
It's either, you get fired or you
Yeah.
can comply, and we're
Yep.
complying. I mean, and not everybody can afford to leave the school system because of ChatGPT, as you mentioned, one teacher. I mean, it is happening for other reasons. Teachers are
Mhm.
leaving
Yeah.
the education, their teaching jobs for other reasons. And
Mhm.
one of them, of course, is money too, but it's not money. Once I read an article when I was at university, and I'll never forget it, about, what are people looking for? And why do they leave their jobs? And it's never money. There are other things,
Mhm.
like
Respect.
communication or lack respect, or
Yeah.
other things. It's never the money. That's the
Yeah.
last straw.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to be paid and I'm demeaned for all the hard work that I'm doing, I get a slap in the face.
Mhm.
Stick around. If it's low salary, I can leave. But if the pay is good, I'll stay.
Yeah.
So, money is the motivator, I think, for all these things, including
Yes.
the development of AI tools.
Mhm.
The competition is about money, the exit
Okay.
that they'll make. And
As I
then
said,
they'll
it's a
and then they'll sell
product.
it to Microsoft, who will take the flip grid, whatever flip that turned into Flipgrid,
Yeah.
and then just throw it out.
Mhm.
It's gone. It's
Yeah.
gone. That's it.
Yeah.
So it's big money, and we're part of it. And how do we survive? By giving these talks.
Yep.
That
That's why
helps.
I'm here.
And I'm very grateful for that, Rob. Thank
And
you.
I'm
Thank
very
you so much. I
grateful
hope
that
you
you have
feel
me.
better with your back.
Thank
And
you.
remember, when you walk, forget that you have a back. Walk with your head.
Yes, I'll walk like an Egyptian.
Yeah, that's a good song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. If
Great.
you have other questions, please add them. I don't see any questions, only comments. Rob, you might want to take a look at the comments or save it for later so that you can get some feedback.
Mhm.
But we will have the RiffBot. If I had my way, I would do it for each of these sessions. But RiffBot is one of these reflective tools that doesn't let you use an AI to organize it. So you have to use your own head and your own ideas.
Really? Oh, how
Yes.
scary. How
Which is,
scary.
yes, can you imagine?
I need to think.
You need to think.
Uh, uh.
So instead of
Great.
who's afraid of Virginia Woolf, who's afraid of thinking
Yes.
on your own?
It looks like everybody.
No, I don't think so.
No,
So
we're
thank
not.
you. What?
We're not. We're not.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be here if we were, right?
Right. Good.
So
Well,
thank you.
thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for listening.